Who dat to the Who Dat Nation. Welcome to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and we are back. The Dome Patrol Podcast is back. We are back and better than ever, I would like to think. We have been off this whole offseason. Well, we popped in a couple of times during the draft, a couple of free agent signings that we touched in on over here. But just like the NFL, we've been on a hiatus. We took a break because we needed it after after last season, the frustrating outcome of the season. That I mean, what can we say? What can be said that hasn't been said or haven't been felt by the entire Who Dat Nation? This team has underachieved for the past couple of years, but last year it really stuck out like a sore thumb. It was really, really bad. To have the worst strength of schedule in the entire football league, to have the worst division in football, to have multiple opponents. I would say last season the Saints only went up against maybe 3 quality quarterbacks all year. 3. And to have the end result that we ended up with was completely ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It is downright embarrassing. The Saints ended last season with a 9-8 record, which is a winning season, technically. The first winning season for Dennis Allen in his entire head coaching career. But is it really a winning season? Do you really felt like you won anything last year, even though we finished above 500? And no, because you only mustered up 9 victories. Last season, we brought in our new quarterback, Derek Carr, who around this time last year, almost to the day, I was 100% on board with this Derek Carr experiment. I felt that he was something that can help us in our quest for another Super Bowl. I didn't think he was the second coming of Drew Brees. I didn't think he was a top 10 quarterback in the league last year, going into last season. I didn't think all that, but from my way of thinking, if he could give us just a couple of steps above what we were faced with since Drew Brees left, the Trevor Simeons of the world, the Red Rifles of the world, what's his name? Andy Dalton. If he could be better than that, I felt, hey, we got a chance to do something. I'm looking at the division. The division is weak. Tampa no longer has Tom Brady. They have Baker Mayfield. Carolina Panthers, they have a rookie quarterback, Bryce Young. And Atlanta don't know what they want to be. At least they didn't last year. And so I'm like, okay, at least we can take this division. Boy, was I wrong. This was an embarrassing display of football. And at the end of the season, we all remember the infamous press conference when Mr. Ed, Mickey Loomis got up there chewing gum like it was the last piece of gum found on planet Earth, and proceeded to tell us that Dennis Allen is in the same atmosphere as a Bill Walsh, as a Chuck Knowles, as a Tom Landry, as a Bill Parcells. These are names he named, not me. He named them. And where do you see that at? Where do you see where Dennis Allen, I don't even think he's better than Raheem Morris. But hey, it is what it is. This is what we got. This is what we stuck with. Unfortunately, we have no control over who calls the shots over there on airline. So it is what it is in that regard. But this show is to celebrate the start of training camp. Training camp officially begins July the 24th of this year, 2024. And no, it will not be on Airline Drive. They are traveling to California, old Irvine, California, to be exact, where they will hold their annual training camp this season, which officially kicks off the new season. The new NFL season will begin on Wednesday, July the 24th. And so we're going to go over this off season, the moves the Saints made. Was it enough moves? We're just going to chat a little bit about the Saints, the state of the Saints, where they at. Did they improve? Do they still need to improve? What's our thoughts and expectations for this upcoming season? It's just going to be some chatting up, just to get back in the groove of the Dome Patrol podcast, because business is about to pick up, and I am super excited, just like the rest of the Hudak Nation, even though they haven't given us much to cheer about lately. We're still cheering. I mean, we bleed black and gold, and so you can't help but cheer for them. Trust me, I've tried to stop. If you listen to the show regularly, and if you do, thank you. If you're a first timer here, thank you. But last season I gave up. I was out. I was done multiple times throughout the season, and I said that this is it. I'm canceling the Dome Patrol podcast. I would not go further talking about this team, watching these games, putting myself through this torture. I would not do it for another season, and yet here we are. And so I can't help it. I love this team, even when they don't love me back. Let's go over last season. Let's go over what took place last season. I mentioned what the Saints went up against and how they underachieved, just epically underachieved. I can think back to the Jim Mora years. I can think back to the Jim Haslett years. Hey, Mike Dicker years to an extent. I can think back to all those years, those seasons when the Saints were struggling and were the laughingstock of the league. Is infamously known. Fans showed up to the games with the bags over their heads. Okay, we know that. We all know about the, at least down here in New Orleans, we all know that you used to can get tickets to the games at Winn-Dixie. When they had a buy one, get one free. Oh, here's the Saints ticket too. Yeah, I mean, those were the days. They were just giving it away. We remember when the games were blacked out. This is pre-Sunday ticket and all that there. And so if the games wasn't sold out, it wasn't shown on television. And there were multiple games like that. And the Saints never sold out that dome. And we had to listen to WWL radio and listen to Buddy D and all that, give us play-by-play. It was brutal, but you still hung in there. I remember those seasons and how the Saints looked like hot garbage. Even though we had an amazing defense in the Dome Patrol defense, the namesake of this show, but we were just horrible as a team. But even then, we didn't underachieve because there were no expectations for the Saints. This team, over the last couple of years under Dennis Allen, has just been, well, I'm not going to say the couple of years. 2 years ago, I'm going to give him a slight, and I mean a slight pass, because of the injuries, the quarterback situation, and all this here. I'll give you a slight pass. And it was the first season. All right, fine. At least his first season as the head coach. Last season, there was no excuses in my eyes. None in regards to this team, in regards to the schedule, in regards to the quarterbacks you played. Let's run them down. Let's start at week 1 when the Saints opened up the season last year against the Tennessee Titans. The Saints won that game 18-15. They struggled against Ryan Tannehill, who I want to say either the week after or a couple of weeks after that got benched. He was trash, and he always been trash. God bless him, but he is not a good quarterback. Saints struggled, but gave it a pass. Opening week, whatever. We move on to Monday Night Football in week 2. Saints took on the Panthers. Saints went up against a rookie in his second game of his career. Saints won that game 20-17. But here's the thing. Saints struggled in that game. They struggled to win. But it's fine. Saints start off 2-0. It looks like, okay, it's going to take a minute to get the wheels turning, but at least we're winning, right? Okay, week 3. This is where my head would just explode. I just could not wrap my head around the fact that this team did this. Saints took on the Green Bay Packers in week 3. Saints were winning the games 17-0 going into the fourth. So actually we were in the fourth quarter. We lost this game 18-17. These people scored 18 unanswered in the fourth. Up to that point, the Green Bay Packers did absolutely nothing. Jordan Love looked like trash the first 3 quarters. He looked like trash. And I don't know. Well, let me take that back. He didn't look like trash. The rest of the team looked like trash. He was poised. I actually liked how he conducted himself in that game. He wasn't rattled. The moment wasn't too big. Even though they were down by 17 points, he still looked like, oh, we got this. And he was right. he was 100% right. But in case that wasn't bad enough, week 4, the Saints took on their division rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, first year there in Tampa. And Baker Mayfield has never been somebody I was threatened by. I'm not a Baker guy. He's an average quarterback. I was going to say slightly above average. No, he's average. And I'm being nice with the average, to be honest with you. He is an average quarterback. I never was a Baker Mayfield guy. But he does what he does, fine. Well, this week, he did it to the Saints. He destroyed the New Orleans Saints, beating the Saints 26-9. And it wasn't even that close. That score does not reflect that butt kicking that Tampa Bay put on the Saints. It was embarrassing to watch. Embarrassing to watch. Well, you may say Saints bounced back. The following week, the Saints took on the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots last season is it was the worst team in football. I don't care what the record said. That team was horrible. Horrible. This is Bill Belichick. This was horrible. Well, the Saints destroyed these people 34-0. At the time, I know I was, and you probably can go back and listen to the episode that we recapped that game. I probably was talking up the Saints, saying, okay, we bounced back. I know that this team is kind of on the outs right now, but it's still Bill Belichick. That I was trying to convince myself that the Saints got it together. And I'm openly admitting this right now because I want to be transparent with all y'all. I don't want to lie. I just want to be real. And that was my real emotion at the time. I was trying to convince myself, yeah, the Saints got it together. Well, they didn't. The following week, the Saints took on the Houston Texans. It was a good game. Another rookie, C.J. Stroud, but at the time, C.J. Stroud had never thrown an intercept. He had never thrown one, but he threw one against the Saints. His first interception was against the Saints. This rookie, but they still ended up winning that game. It was a close game. Like I said, it was a good game, but it was a winnable game for the Saints. There was a lot of mistakes in that game, but still, games like that you can't lose. Off a short week, Thursday Night Football, Saints took on the Jacksonville Jaguars in another loss, 31-24. I'm sorry, and that was another embarrassing one that the score doesn't reflect. It was embarrassing. It was just embarrassing the way this team, because a lot of those points and yardage and stats, it was stat padding at the end, a lot of garbage time. It just, Saints were not ready for prime time. and they showed it, man, for the world to see. Uh, Following week, Saints took on the Colts. They defeated the Colts 38-27. It was a good victory, but you allowed 27 points on your defense, and this was a quarterback who was coming off the bench, didn't, I think this was like his second start or something like that, and he was carving the Saints up for the most part. Unfortunately, their defense was worse than ours, and we was we was able to take advantage of it, but I still had problems. I still had problems with the fact you allowed 27 points against this team. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks coming off the bench, Saints the following week took on the Chicago Bears. Now, not the Justin Fields Chicago Bears. Well, Justin Fields, who is now in Pittsburgh, but no, he was hurt. They took on I can't think of the guy's name now. That goes to show you how ridiculous it is. This young man, he threw about 20 picks in that game, but it was still a one possession game. Saints won that game 24-17. They struggled. The defense struggled again. Yes, the Saints won the game, but it was nothing to cheer about in that game, about that game. The following week, Saints took on the Minnesota Vikings. They lost that game 27-19. That was the game. When what's the guy name? The quarterback, the one with alopecia. I can't think of his name, but he got there like 2 days before this game. They signed him, and he started. He didn't even know his teammates' names, and he went in there and carved the Saints up, 27-19. I mean, tore the Saints up. Just got off the plane. They just handed him his jersey. He didn't even have the playbook. But he managed to destroy the Saints. You can't make this stuff up, people. You honestly cannot make this up. The following week, the Saints took on the Falcons. The Falcons beat us 24-15. This is Desmond Ridder-led Falcons, who was benched for the majority of the season. They took him off the bench. They took him off the bench to start against the Saints, and he beat them. I can't make this up, people. Moving on to December the 3rd, the Saints took on the Detroit Lions. I wasn't expecting the Saints to beat the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are one of the best teams in football last season, and I can honestly say the Saints really put up a fight against Detroit. I was actually proud in that loss. I wasn't upset at that loss so much. I still saw opportunities for us to win that game, but I wasn't super mad. We had a chance at the end if memory serves, but yeah, typical Saints. I was expecting it, so it didn't really bother me. But the Saints lost that game. Saints went back for the second time, played the Panthers. They destroyed the Panthers again. They played the Giants, beat the Giants. That was with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. They beat them. Thursday night football, once again, prime time, lights is on. The world is watching. Saints took on the Rams. Rams beat us. It went 30-22. That score didn't reflect it. Then the Saints finished the season off against the Bucks and the Falcons. They defeated them, wrapping up the season at 9-8. The Rams game is what killed us for the playoff push for the division. We needed that game, and we didn't get it. Now, you can make the argument, yeah, the Saints did win 4 out of the last 5. That's great. That's great. But look what happened earlier this season when they had opportunities. There were winnable games. When they went on that 3-game losing streak against the Vikings, what was it? The Vikings, the Falcons, and the Detroit Lions. They should have won. They should have beat the Falcons at least. They should have beat the Falcons there. They should have beat Jacksonville. Now, those are 2 games right there. Those are 2 games right there that you should have had. But the biggest glaring one is the the Green Bay game. Green Bay, that was the game that really killed your playoff hopes. It killed it. And that was early on in the season. That's why every game matters. Just because you lose early in the season, you're like, oh, that's all right. We'll bounce back later on. No, those games come back to haunt you. And that game came back to haunt the New Orleans Saints last season. But that was the past. That was the past. Let's move on. This season here, we got some new additions. We got some new coaches. We have some new players. Will this be a new looking team? We shall see. It's been a busy offseason. I will say that. There's been some surprising moves that took place this offseason. First, the Saints parted ways with offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael. Now, some can make the argument they never should have hired him in the first place. He didn't want to come back. They begged him to come back. So I don't blame Pete Carmichael for none of that. Everything that went on with the offense for the past couple of seasons, I don't blame Pete Carmichael because he made it clear he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to coach here. He retired. When Sean Payton left, he left. But they begged him to come back. So that's on the Saints. Now, along with him, most of the offensive staff went as well. So now we in this search for an offensive coordinator. Now, I understand that this is a copycat league. Everybody wants the Shanahan style of offense. Everybody wants the Sean McVay style of offense, which is basically the same because they're all from the same tree. And I get it. It's successful. It's been successful in his league, even though it's not super successful for Shanahan. I mean, let's be honest. Yes, it's successful in the regular season, but how many Super Bowls does Kyle Shanahan have? I'll wait. That's what I thought. And so it's not like this is a foolproof offensive system here, because it doesn't win too many championships. Just go back through the history, people. But the Saints did pluck from that tree, sort of. They hired Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator. He was formerly on the staff at San Francisco, but not one of the major pieces there. It's not like he was the offensive coordinator. It wasn't like, well, was he the run game coordinator, something like that? But either way, he didn't call plays. He's never called plays. But this is the first time for everything. That's fine. You got to start somewhere. And so that's the addition here. I'm not over the moon with this hire. I mean, it's good. It's something different. It's different from what we've been seeing. I mean, the Sean Payton era is over. Sean Payton gone. That's in Denver. That's over. It's time for something new. So this is something new. Now, whether it will be successful or not, we'll see in a few weeks. But I'm not super excited by it because I really don't know what his system is. I don't know what Clint Kubiak's system is. I've read reports. I've read articles. He says it's going to be run heavy. There's a lot of motions here, which is a breath of fresh air, because that's one thing the Saints don't do or haven't done in the past. Motion. That's even under Sean Payton. There weren't too much motion going on. That's how defenses figured the Saints offense out so much, because you knew what they were about to do. But there was no misdirection at all. But along with Clint Kubiak, you have some new faces around the offensive staff, coaching staff, and I guess that's a good thing. That's another voice in the room, a different voice in the room, I should say. Saints, during the draft, they added 7 new pieces to this offense, to the team, I should say, and several undrafted rookies as well. We were in desperate need of an offensive tackle, and we got one in the first round with Tennessee. I'm pretty sure I'll get his name before the season start. Fuaga, Tennessee Fuaga, or Tallahassee Fuaga, whatever. I'll figure it out. We'll get it together. And all the reports show that he is a beast at his position. I never followed him in Oregon, so I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know, but all the experts said that was a good pick for the Saints. And the highlights that I did watch of his, and I don't know how to watch highlights of offensive linemen. They block, you know. Can you block? I mean, that's the question. I mean, he's Samoan, and that's a big thing, you know, because Samoans are beasts in any athletic arena they're in, wrestling, football, whatever. They are a beast. So I'm encouraged by it. But the sexy pick, the real sexy pick that Saints had was in that second round when they drafted cornerback Kool-Aid McKenzie. And now, with that pick, all the speculation blew out of control. All the Saints about to trade Marshawn Lattimore. I don't understand, and I'm taking a break from going who we all added, but I just got to get this off my chest. Why is everybody all gun-ho to get rid of Marshawn Lattimore? What happened here? Marshawn Lattimore is top 5 cornerbacks in the league. And I'm talking high top 5. You might can argue top 3. Marshawn, look at the numbers. You don't believe me? Look at the numbers. But the disturbing thing about it, it wasn't so much of the rumor. There's always rumors surrounding football, surrounding teams, surrounding players. That's par for the course. That's normal. It was the response to these rumors. Now, it may have been true. It may have been some truth to it. Maybe the Saints were looking for suitors in a trade. Okay, that it is what it is. But the attitude of so-called Saints fans, like, oh yeah, he can go. Oh yeah, we don't need him. We got Paulson Adebo. We have Alante Taylor. We just got Kool-Aid. All this, man, we'll be all right. Look, all that is fine. We got those pieces. But we're talking about a top 5 corner, something the Saints have never in their, 50-something year existence had. And you're all so willing to just let that go. What am I missing something here? I mean, look, does he give us 16 straight games? Well, 17. Now, does he give us 17 straight games in a season? Not too much. He gets hurt a lot. But that's a very physically demanding position. I don't expect it. I don't expect none of these players. You know, that's why it's such an achievement when a player goes through the entire season without getting injured. You look at a player, and I'm knocking on wood, I hope I don't jinx it, that Demario Davis, who only missed 1 game in his career. You know, you look at Cam Jordan, knock on wood again, that he only missed 1 game in his career. You know, it's things like that. That is an anomaly. That's not the norm. That's the exception. And so I'm not making excuses for Marshawn Lattimore. He gets hurt. But when he's here, when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the league. As long as he's not playing Mike Evans from Tampa. That's when he gets dirty. But I love this dude, man. Now, if it comes time when he has to move on, sure, I would rather you trade him and get something for him. You know, don't just let him walk out the door scot-free. I'm all with that. It was just the attitude. It was the way people was willing to throw him away like he was nothing. Like he was nothing. It just bothered me. Those 2 draft picks were the headlines of the draft. That offensive tackle and Kool-Aid. You know, those were good picks. Solid picks. We also added a wide receiver with Bud Means, a linebacker with Jalen Ford, a defensive tackle with Christian Boyd. Those were good additions. Those were solid players. I followed, not tooth and nail, but I know a little bit about Bud Means. I seen Jalen Ford, Christian Boyd, not so much, but I just like our offensive tackle, I looked up some highlights and whatnot, and it looks exciting. You know, those were pieces we needed. You know, at the end of the day. Now, whether they become all pros and leading us to Super Bowls or not, I don't know. But as it stands right now, they filled needs of this team. And that's what the Saints accomplished in the draft. When it comes to free agency, Saints made some big moves there as well. Saints weren't expected to be highly active in free agency because of course, the cap issue that we deal with every single year. And it's still mind boggling to me how the Saints are able to kick the can down the road. Eventually, the chickens will come home to roost. It's going to have to. We're going to have to address this at some point. You keep restructuring, you keep giving out extensions and all this other stuff. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. But for now, that's what's working for the Saints. Good on them. Now, several veterans on the teams did take restructures, did take extensions to help out the cap issue. And with that, the Saints were able to make some surprising amount of moves in the offseason to wheel in some talent here. Here's a recap of some of the free agents the Saints signed this past offseason, and it was a lot. there were a lot of moving and shaking from the Saints. I'm just gonna go through a few of them. I'm not gonna go through it all, but starting offensively, the Saints signed Nathan Peterman, a quarterback. Now, Nathan Peterman is what you would call a journeyman in the NFL. Nothing that's going to threaten Derek Carr's job. Nothing that's going to threaten Spencer Rattler's job. That was another addition in the draft that we got. He's just here. But I think he's more here because he knows Clint Kubiak, and whatever offense they plan to run, they need somebody here to teach it. And I think that's why he's here. The Saints also added a wide receiver. Well, two to be accurate, Stanley Morgan Jr. And I can't pronounce his first name, but St. Brown, not Amon St. Brown, who's in Detroit, but his brother. He has that long name that I'm pretty sure once the season gets ramped up, I'm gonna know his name. I hopefully it's because he's making big plays for us. But they being the Saints wrapped up those two wide receivers. They picked up an offensive lineman, kicker, another guard, actually about 3 guards that they signed in the offseason. Also, Cedric Wilson, that's the third wide receiver that they picked up from, did he play for Dallas, I believe? Yeah. So the Saints did make a lot of moves as for offensively. Defensively, I mean, the signing of the offseason was the signing of defensive end Chase Young. That was a big signing that I didn't expect. I did not expect us to land Chase Young. Now, Chase Young, this is his 3rd team in 2 years. I know the math ain't mathing on that, but that's the facts. He has been, of course, we know he was drafted by the Washington Commanders. He was traded early last season. He played for the 49ers, even went to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it, of course, and the 49ers decided not to re-sign him. And so here he is in New Orleans, and all accounts seems that he's excited to be here. You know, Saints got him on a prove it a deal. And so it's not like we're on a hook for 3 to 4 years with something that, you know, he hasn't proved nothing. Honestly, he's a first overall pick, a former first overall pick who hasn't shown first overall pick quality in the NFL. In flashes, he has, but not consistently. And that's why teams have not jumped out there for Chase Young. Saints are willing to do it, and I think that's perfect for the Saints. Reason being, it's better than what we've been producing at defensive end, with the exception of Cam Jordan. But Cam Jordan is long in the tooth now. Cam Jordan isn't Cam Jordan of old. And so the other counterparts on the other side haven't quite lived up to expectations. They drafted Peyton Turner a couple of years ago. That haven't panned out. Marcus Davenport is no longer with the team. He didn't pan out. Carl Granderson, I think he did decent last year, but, you know, didn't set the world on fire. Isaac Forsky, he's heading towards bust category. He can't even get on the field. So we needed a counterpart to Cam Jordan. And Chase Young, like I said, he's a proven deal. He's out here to show that he's earned the right to play in the NFL, that he deserves a big contract, whether it be from the Saints or somewhere else. So he's going to go out here and perform because he knows this is it. This is his last chance. And when you back an animal into a corner, that animal's going to come out that corner. And so I'm hoping that this is the situation that can benefit not only him going forward in his career, but benefit us on the way to that achievement for him. The Saints also picked up a linebacker, Willie Gay Jr., as well as Kaliki Hudson, another linebacker as well. Shamar John Charles, a cornerback. Will Harris, a safety, real good, solid safety who's been playing in the league a minute. And so the Saints made a lot of moves, a lot of pieces in a lot of areas that needed to be addressed. And so I'm happy to a degree, to a degree, but that's just on paper. We'll have to see how it all works out on the field. Now, we made all these additions. Let's talk about some of the subtractions. Some of the players that unceremoniously left the Who Dat Nation, so to speak. And let's start with Jameis Winston. He signed with the Browns this offseason. Malcolm Roach signed with the Broncos, reuniting him with Sean Payton. Isaac Yeldon, cornerback. He was pretty decent. I liked Isaac Yeldon coming off the bench. He signed with the 49ers. James Hurst, our guard, he retired. Andres Pete, our other guard, he signed with the Raiders, and that one hurt. I didn't think it would, but it hurt because last year, he finally showed his worth. He finally showed that he is worth all the hoopla, and it took the last year of his contract with the New Orleans Saints to them to move him to left guard after this Trevor Penning experiment is blowing up in all of our faces. He took over at left tackle and did an exceptional job at left tackle. I mean, I had zero problems with him there. I don't know where this side of him came from, but hey, I'm glad that he was able to at least have one good season here in New Orleans. Now, I say that, but he had an all right run here since we drafted him a few years back, but not up to the degree to a first-round pick. See, people forget he was a first-round pick. The Saints wasted on him, and he didn't give us first-round quality, at least not to my liking. But that's just me. Zach Braun, linebacker, he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Zach Braun was another big loss, I feel. He was out of position here. Dennis Allen did not play him right. When he put his hands in the ground and rushed the passer, he was a beast. He was at his best. He was a pass rusher. But you had him at linebacker. I mean, he played decent. I never had a problem with him at linebacker. But once we saw him step in and take some snaps at defensive end, I was like, my God, why is he not a defensive end? But unfortunately, just like Andres Pete, they showed it all to us final year of his contract, meaning he had to move on. Now, there are other players who unceremoniously left the team that aren't signed with anybody. Those were just the signed players. Here are the unsigned players. You have Marcus May. He's still floating out there. He's unsigned. Max Garcia is still out there. Jimmy Graham, he hasn't officially retired. He's still out there. Eno Benjamin, the running back, he's still out there. Wide receiver Keith Kirkwood, who I had a lot of high hopes for. I saw flashes of a really good wide receiver there. And for one reason or another, it just didn't come together here in New Orleans. He's still out there, even though I read somewhere that he signed with the Broncos, but I couldn't find that nowhere else. It's weird. I don't know He could be with the Broncos. I don't know, but I think he's still out there. Well, I do know for certain he's not in New Orleans right now, as well as Lynn Bolden Jr. is not with us anymore. And the big one, Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is gone. But the biggest shocker of it all, he is still unsigned with any team. I don't know what the reason is. I knew for a fact he was going to Denver. I know if all else failed, he can go to Denver. No. No. I don't know what's going on there. And now, the reason I name all of these players, because these are players who could end up back in the black and gold, is a possibility. Except Michael Thomas. I don't see Michael Thomas coming back because he went scorched earth out the door here in New Orleans. And it pained me that this relationship broke up the way it did, because I love Michael Thomas. I'm not in that camp with everybody else who was like, oh, he could go. Oh, they shouldn't have paid him that money. Oh, no, he's not all that good. He's nothing without Drew Brees and all this here. I wasn't in that camp. I think Michael Thomas is one of the greatest Saints receivers of all time. Only behind Marcus Colston and maybe Joe Horn. But actually, he's better than Joe Horn. So I would put him only behind Marcus Colston, in my humble opinion. But as far as drafted wide receivers, Saints who were Saints their whole career, I hate this. I hate this. Now, with that being said, Saints are somewhat stacked at that position. You know, we have Chris Olave, we have Rashid Shaheed. You know, we brought in some other wide receivers in free agency and then through the draft. I'm pretty sure I'm blanking on a couple of them. I'm trying to name them, but I'm blanking on them. It'll come to me later. But I know that that room is pretty full. There's not too many chairs left in that room, and so it don't look like he's going to come back. But it is what it is. Jimmy Graham, no. Now, I said that last year too, around this time when they signed him. I was like, what for? What you signed him for? But he actually came and produced. It's the Saints' fault that he wasn't used as much, because every time he touched the ball, he scored. And so I don't know why they didn't use him so much, but that's besides the point. But in reality, I don't know if we really need Jimmy Graham here back in the Who Dat Nation, even though I still love him, but it is what it is. Here's the subject that I'm pretty sure we all been waiting to hear. The one thing that has been plaguing the Who Dat Nation for the past couple of months, and that is Alvin Kamara. In case you've been living under the rock for the past couple of months, Saints had minicamp. What was it, last month in June, the beginning of June, and the last practice, the final practice of minicamp, Alvin Kamara literally took his ball and went home. He left in the middle of camp, of the practice, I should say, and that just caused a whole whirlwind of speculation as to what's going on and all this here. Is he leaving the team? Is he frustrated with the team? Then reports came out about Alvin Kamara wanting a contract extension, wanting to want more money. And I was like, nah, that can't be true. You know, when it first came out, I was like, nah, that can't be right. Alvin Kamara is making $10.2 million this upcoming season. That's not chump change. That's especially for running backs. When it comes to running backs, and we've seen how running backs have been treated in the past couple of seasons. Just look around the league, people. Look at Derrick Henry. Tennessee allowed Derrick Henry to go. New York Giants allowed Saquon Barkley to go. They don't care. They would not pay running backs. The only running backs who gets paid is Christian McCaffrey. and he just got a big extension. And so that deal went through a couple of months ago, and that's what added to the speculation. And Alvin Kamara wants pretty much the same money or around that in the ballpark of a Christian McCaffrey deal. Now, once again, these are rumors. I haven't read anywhere where Alvin Kamara has said this, but a lot of people, sources close to the team, are saying that. And so it could be some truth to that. Let me just say this: I love Alvin Kamara. I want Alvin Kamara to retire a New Orleans Saints. I want him to finish his career in the black and gold, never leave for another team. But Alvin Kamara, Alvin Kamara needs to take off the blinders and see, basically read the room, Alvin. Read the room. The reason Christian McCaffrey has gotten the deal that he got. Now, Christian McCaffrey, I think they came in the same year, if I'm not mistaken. Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara. Didn't they get drafted the same year? I could be off on that, but that's besides the point. He just got a 2-year extension in Frisco, and it's an average of $19 million with a $24 million guarantee deal. Now, Alvin, you are still, I think, the third highest paid running back in the league. There's an argument to be made. You're overpaid. Let me explain why. And like I said, I love Alvin Kamara. I love Alvin Kamara. But let me explain why he may be overpaid. Alvin Kamara is always hurt every season. He's going to be out. He's going to miss 4 games a year. You can pretty much set your watch to it. Love him, but it's the truth. Y'all know it's the truth. He will give you 4 on the sideline every year. 3 minimum. But he doesn't, and it's crucial points of the season when we miss him. And it's soul crushing. Point number 2, and I didn't know this until this happened, until he walked out on the practice and all this speculation came out, and I started doing research. So if he never would have pulled the move he pulled, I never would have did what I did and researched. And now this could be just me being dumb, and all of you out there already knew this, but I didn't know this. Alvin Kamara has never, I repeat, has never had a 1,000-yard rushing season as a New Orleans Saint. And he's been a New Orleans Saint his whole career. Now, he has had over 1,000 yards all purpose, rushing, catching, all that, receiving yards and whatnot. That's all fine and good. That's why we love him. But as far as rushing yards from a running back, he has never had a 1,000-yard season rushing. Now, I'm not going to crucify him for that. But if you want top running back money, you need to provide top running back statistics. That's how this world works, man. Come on. It's all a merit base. Everything is merit based. On your job, you are paid due to your work production. How much work production you give every day, every week, every year for your around raise time come around or whatever. That's how they judge your performance, off of your work, off of your production numbers or whatever job you have out there. It's the same thing here. What warrants you getting basically a pay raise? What have you done? Let's look at last season. Now, it's all about timing, people. Let's look at last season. He had 1,140 yards from scrimmage. That's all-purpose yards. Rushing he had 694 yards rushing. Career lows. Both of them. The all-purpose and his rush yards. Career lows. Now, all of that isn't his fault. It was the offense. It was Pete Carmichael's offense. This is all facts. I'm not putting that all on him, but that is severely low. You know, he had 5 touchdowns all season. 5. He only had 466 yards receiving. And to make matters worse, the day after training camp begins on the 25th of July, he turns 29 years old. And so he's 1 year older than Christian McCaffrey. He's 1 year older. Christian McCaffrey is 28. You know, I guess you could say by months, you know, whatever. He's a few months older, but whatever. In football years, he's an old man. In football years. Look, running backs with at least 4 seasons of 100-yard rushing, they peak at 27 years old and steadily decline in years after that. That's statistics. Rushing attempts also peak at 27 years old. Rushing average peaks around 24 to 26 years old. You get where I'm going with this. Now, Alvin Kamara does a great job staying in shape and keeping his body in shape and all this here, except during the season. But that's neither here nor there. There were outside factors due to Alvin Kamara's decline last season. Let's not forget he was suspended the first 3 games of last season because of that Las Vegas incident in the elevator. The Saints had offensive line issues that's well documented as well. Derek Carr wasn't familiar with Alvin Kamara's abilities, you know, so that was a lack there. There wasn't a connection there. And so all of it isn't his fault. I start off by saying that. And so I'm trying to be fair and balanced here. You know, a lot of it wasn't his fault, but at the same time, some of it was. Let's just be, if we're gonna lay it out there, let's lay it all out there. At the end of the day, Alvin Kamara cap number is $18.55 million this year. It's the highest on the team. The highest on the team. And this is because of the restructures. The restructuring in 2022 and the restructuring in 2023 that pushed that money back to now. And this is why we are where we are. Now, with camp about to start, the big question is, will Alvin Kamara show up? Will he show up to camp? And if he doesn't show up to camp, how long will he stay out? You know, this isn't something new. We all remember before, what was it, the 2020 season? Or was it 2021? Yeah, the 2020 season. He missed 5 practices. The first 5 practices of camp because of a contract. You know, try to get a new contract. And it worked. And this is the contract that he currently is under. And so he has no problems missing camp, sitting out camp to get a new deal. And so that's going to be the big question going into camp concerning Alvin Kamara. Now, the Saints can cut him. Not this season, but next season. And they can save up to $23 million against the cap. And so that will save them buku money on the cap if they cut him. This is hard here. I love him, but my God, man, if it's going to save that much money, because eventually that's the only way to rid yourself of all of this debt. You're gonna have to take the scissors to some of this stuff, man. And unfortunately, we're gonna lose some players that we don't want to lose. And so that's a problem. And the bigger problem is he's somebody you don't want to just let walk out the door. Just like the argument I was making with Marshawn Lattimore, if you're gonna let him go, at least get something in return. So that's the fear that I'm feeling with that. I don't want him to just walk out the door and we get absolutely nothing for him. And so that's that issue. That's the storylines going into camp. There's more, but I've wasted way too much time. Wasn't expecting to talk this long, but I'm just excited. to be talking Saints football. But before we get out of here, though, let's go over the schedule that we have coming up this season. The teams that we can look forward to seeing this year. I'm not going to make no predictions because I have no idea how this is going to play out, how the Saints are going to look, how these other teams are going to look going into this new season. But this is the schedule for the 2024-2025 season, just so you can have it out there. Let's start with preseason. This preseason, you know that they cut preseason to 3 games, and this year our first preseason game will be on August the 10th against the Arizona Cardinals. Week 2 of the preseason, we take on the San Francisco 49ers. Week 3 of the preseason, we take on the Tennessee Titans. Regular season, our first game of the year, the opener, will be Sunday, September the 8th in the Superdome. The Saints will face the Carolina Panthers. Week 2, September the 15th in Dallas, in Jerry World, at the AT&T Stadium. The Saints will take on those Cowgirls in week 2. Week 3, on September the 22nd, the Saints will take on the Philadelphia Eagles, finally in the Superdome. It felt like everything for the past, 5 matchups in a row we've been going to Philly. We finally going to get them here in the Dome. For week 4, on September the 29th, the Saints will travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Week 5, my God in heaven, we travel to Kansas City, to Arrowhead, to take on the defending Super Bowl champions at Monday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 6, back in the Superdome, we take on our division rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, on October the 13th. On October the 17th, Thursday Night Football, here in the Superdome, we get the return of one Sean Payton and his Denver Broncos coming to the Dome to take on our Saints. Week 8, on October the 27th, the Saints will travel to LA to take on the Chargers, the Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers. And on week 9, November the 3rd, the New Orleans Saints will travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Week 10, November the 10th, the Saints will take on the Falcons in the Superdome. Week 11, November the 17th, back at home again, we take on the Cleveland Browns. Week 12 is finally when we get our bye, which is good in a way and bad in a way, depending on how you look at it. Week 13, on December the 1st, the Saints will take on the other Los Angeles team in the Superdome, the Rams. Week 14, on December the 8th, the Saints will travel to New York to battle the Giants. Week 15, on December the 15th, the Saints will take on the Washington Commanders here in the Superdome. Week 16, Monday Night Football yet again. And wasn't that game last year, Monday Night Football? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But Monday Night Football, 2 days before Christmas, December the 23rd, the Saints travel to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. That's going to stink because late December, 2 days before Christmas, it's going to be cold and at night in Lambeau. Yeah. Week 17, which will be a very emotional day for Mr. Derek Carr as he takes on his former team here in the Superdome, December the 29th, versus the Las Vegas Raiders. And for the final week of the season, week 18, which is, as it stands right now, to be determined when that date will be, because it could be flexed depending on how the season plays out. The Saints will close out the season at Raymond James Stadium to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Will it be for the division? Stay tuned. I doubt it. I doubt it. But that is our season. That's who we go up against this upcoming year. And I saw a report where they said that the Saints have the second hardest schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, the second easiest schedule. I don't see that. I don't see that nowhere on here. You have the Super Bowl champs. You have Green Bay, who was a playoff team last year. You have of course Tampa always plays you tough. Atlanta always plays you tough. Carolina not so much. You got the Broncos. That's going to be an emotional game. The Raiders going to be an emotional game from certain players. Even Dennis Allen, who used to coach there. Philly is always a tough game. Dallas, that flip a coin on that. It's going to be kind of tough. This is a tough schedule. Is it hard? No, it's not hard. But last year was a cakewalk of a schedule in comparison to this, and we crapped the bed on that. So I have zero confidence with this. But here's to praying that things can change. We shall see. We shall see. But yes, people, football is back, and I'm so happy. I'm happy to be talking Saints football. I'm happy to be talking football, period. I have been deprived. I tried watching the UFL. It just didn't get there. It just didn't get there for me. Basketball this season was meh. The women's basketball was good. I'm not a baseball guy, so that didn't do anything for me either. So sports has been kind of sporadic, man, and I've been fiending for some football, and I'm happy that we have arrived. I would love to know, what are your feelings going into this season? What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the Alvin Kamara situation? What's your thoughts on Dennis Allen? Is this make or break for Mr. Allen? Is this the year that DA puts up or shuts up? Is this it? For me, it is, because if it was me, he would have been gone last season. But whatever. This is it. What about Derek Carr? Are you out on Derek Carr, or are you willing to give him another go? Well, you have no choice. Yeah. But I would like to see Spencer Rattler challenge him for that spot. But I don't think anything. Spencer Rattler can go out there in camp and in preseason and go have a perfect passer rating of 158.3 throughout, and they still going to start Derek Carr. Nothing's going to change. That's your quarterback. Yeah, and whatever else questions you have. Chase Young coming off of that neck surgery. How will he produce? Will he be 100% at the start of camp? More importantly, at the start of the season. Questions. I would love to know, what are your thoughts this upcoming season. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms, the KB Radio Network. Just search for it. Also, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube, where you can find this show and many others, and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Football is back, and I am excited. Can't wait for this season to pop off, good or bad. Most likely bad, but good or bad, we are in it for life. Everybody, thank you for joining me today. Be on the lookout for more from the Dome Patrol Podcast going forward, because, like I said, the season has started. Any news that come out of camp regarding injuries or Alvin Kamara not showing up or competitions in camp, or whatever big news heavy items coming out of camp, we will discuss. It's going to be a little difficult this year, being as though they're in California. Last year, I actually went to camp. Was it last year or the year before? No, it was last year. I don't know. Dates are getting mixed up. But even no, that was 2 years ago. Last year, I still had good intel, I guess you could say, into camp. But it's gonna be a little tougher this year. But hey, I'll get it when you get it, and when you get it, give it to me. But until we speak again, and until the season is officially kicked off and we get some gameplay, I want you to know that I love all of you. And until the next time we meet again, I'm going to be screaming, "Who dat?"